Welcome back to Shawn and Maya in the morning on this Hump Day edition of Shawn and Maya in the morning. Man, it's a nice day, Maya. I'm loving this 80-degree weather all week. I'm loving it.
I'm always a mid 80s is great to me. I don't need to be hot when I'm at home. Now I may leave someplace else to go be hot, but when I'm home, I can do between 85 and 89 is ideal weather to me. Because Saturday was like the best weather. I was like, this is perfect. The weather on
How was it here? Because I was in Michigan.
it was beautiful. It was like, it was like upper, I want to say upper 80s. It was just mild. There was a nice breeze. The evening was nice. Perfect weather. So I don't need to be too hot all the time.
Yeah, I was expecting it to be mid 90s, but then again, I knew it's always cooler by the lake. So even though I was in the other side of the lake in Michigan, I was like, it wasn't as hot as I expected it to be. Like last weekend when I was there, it was a lot hotter last weekend, but it was still sunny. There's a nice little breeze this weekend. So I was wondering, how it was here in Chicago.
It was beautiful. I mean, I'm miles from the lake, and it was just perfect weather. So it probably might have been a little bit cooler in the city, I'm assuming, but it was still a great day. So yes, that's my kind of weather. Give me mid 80s anytime.
Okay, and that's what it's going to be the rest of the week. So good stuff.
Hey, before we jump into our next segment, really quick, I want to piggyback off something they're doing on What's Up Cuz, which comes on Mondays at 6 p.m. with Jason and Lance. They're doing the Sports Zone Chicago weekly poll question. And it's sponsored by the Chicago Crusaders. If you go to chicagocrusader.com, you can vote on which Chicago sports team do you think will win the next championship. So pretty much it's like, Bears, Blackhawks, White Sox, Sky. Funny enough, the Bulls were left out. That's how little faith nobody has. So yeah, go vote. It's one of our partnerships we have with the Chicago Crusader. And they put a poll question, you vote, and we'll, kind of maybe on Friday you can touch base and say, hey, this is where the numbers are at. What's funny? I bet you it'll change after a couple of days. The White Sox were leading in the vote. When I saw it, I was like, that's going to change probably in about a day or two because people were like, okay. But anyway, so yeah, go to chicagocrusader.com, scroll down, and vote for the Sports Zone Chicago poll question of the week.
Well, guys, our first guest, well, actually our second because we had Joseph on. Our next guest is she covers the Chicago Bears for Heavy.com. You've seen her on Shawn and Maya in the morning before. She's slowly becoming a great friend of the program. You can find her on Twitter at Beth Mishler-Elmore. Guys, just welcome back to Shawn and Maya, Beth Mishler-Elmore. Beth, good morning. How are you?
Hey there, Shawn and Maya. How you doing? Good morning.
Good. How are you?
Wonderful.
Doing well.
Except for that news from Eddie Goldman. That was kind of a sledgehammer to her chest, but
Yeah.
So you wrote an article about Eddie Goldman who decided to opt out for the 2020 season. Maya thinks it's premature. I think I agree with her. But what have you heard the reason behind it? Has he given a reason? Not that he has to, but has he said, hey, listen, I got a wife that's pregnant, I got a kid. What's the reason behind it if you know it?
I don't know it. If I had to guess, he's a 320-pound man, and this is he's heavy contact every play. It's not like he's a receiver or a quarterback, and so if I don't know that he's got a kid on the way or a newborn baby, like Anthony Miller and Nick Foles and Cody Whitehair. So I'm not 100% sure on that, but if I had to venture a guess, I would say the health concerns may stem just the fact that he's one of the bigger guys on the team. And I don't think he's diabetic or anything or has any kind of conditions like that, but I also don't know the situation in his personal life or who he lives with or who he's, responsible for close to. So I respect his decision. It was definitely a blow. But at 26 years old, it in the prime of his career, it couldn't have been an easy one. So,
and now it obviously leaves a figuratively and literally a big hole in the middle of that lineup. What you wrote about who some of the possible replacements could be. Who do you think the Bears could and should go after in this offseason to kind of replace that nose tackle position?
Well, I think the early consensus on Twitter is that Chicago wants some snacks. We want a little Damon Snacks Harrison. Yeah. The two of the three that I'm suggesting might be good role players this season and may even eventually grow into a expanded role if it works out this year, used to play against us in the NFC North. And so Snacks is the first and former Packer Mike Daniels is the second. And neither are necessarily nose tackles per se, but both are excellent at stopping the run. And with Goldman gone, that's going to be, I think, the primary concern, because he was one of the best, I think, run stoppers on the team and just one of the more underrated at it in the league, I think. And so I think there's health concerns with both Snacks Harrison and Mike Daniels. Both are coming out. Well, Snacks is actually, he had 15 starts for the Lions yet last year, but he's had some injuries in his career and he's been around a lot. He's 31. And so he's not necessarily in the prime of his career yet, but I think he's got some good years left. And I think he's got an attitude that screams Bears football. I think he'd be a monster on the field. And I think he'd be great to come fill in. He played, I think, 47 or 46 or 47% of the snaps on defense for the Lions last year. So he could be a nice body to come in and provide maybe some depth on that defense, which is, the defensive line is still strong. But it's going to be really interesting too to see how Bilal Nichols and Roy Robertson-Harris maybe contribute in a nose tackle capacity, because you got John Jenkins and he's probably going to be in there, but I don't think he's going to be the answer. And so Jay Rogers, the defensive line coach earlier this summer, was talking about the importance of flexibility on the line. And so I think if you brought in someone like Daniels or Snacks Harrison, you'd have to also consider the roles of Roy Robertson-Harris and or Bilal Nichols and how they're going to contribute as well, because I think a combination of RRH and Bilal Nichols and then someone else they might bring in could be a pretty interesting way to sort of make up for the void that Goldman's going to leave.
How does this impact them in regards to, obviously, we had a kind of a consensus on the show that even though, when we had preseason, that we all said, oh, preseason, not really all that important until you need it. Obviously, because you've got some evaluation pieces and you're trying to fit some pieces into the puzzle. So I think the Bears are already behind an 8 ball because they've lost that, as you could say, time frame to do some mixing up and figuring some things out. So being that they have to work on the fly, do you think that's going to be even a bigger challenge for them because of that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's going to be a challenge for those around him too, right? I mean, I think Eddie Goldman's been there and he's been the guy pretty much since 2015 in the middle of that defense. And so I think you can't just pick it up, especially with no preseason. They're going to start practice here in a week or two and things are going to, pick up a little bit, but the main focus for the team is going to be on the quarterback competition now. And so that's, I think, where the media is going to go. But the real important thing, I think, is going to be how they compensate for Goldman being gone. And, it can't be easy on the coaches either, because they had to expect that maybe there'd be a player or two on each side that could really impact the entire offensive or defensive line that might opt out. And when it did, you got to just kind of roll with it. And so that's what I think they're going to pretty much be doing. And I think the first four games of the season, weeks 1 through 4, are essentially going to look like preseason. I think they're going to be kind of sloppy. I think we're going to see a lot more turnovers, missed assignments. I think especially, in that role in the nose tackle position, I think there's just going to be some natural getting used to his absence. And, as much as you practiced it before, I don't know that, I don't know what their practice schedule was like. I'm not sure when Coach Rogers was talking about the importance of flexibility, just how much other players maybe move into the nose tackle position in practice. And so I'm not sure how much they've worked on it, but I'm pretty sure that it hasn't been enough to compensate for Goldman's absence. And so I think, I'm pretty sure weeks 1 through 4 are going to look like a preseason as a result.
So,
guys, we're joined by Beth Mishler-Elmore from Heavy.com, who covers the Bears. We're having a little Bears talk right here on Shawn and Maya in the morning on Sports Zone Chicago.
So if I'm going to be the devil's advocate, then if the first possibly 1 through 4 games look like the preseason, does that pretty much mean there's not an expectation that they can be playoff bound?
I don't know. I think the first 4 games are going to look like the preseason for a lot of teams. And I think the Bears have a very easy schedule. So I'm not ready to write them off just yet. I think they could very easily handle the Lions and Giants in weeks 1 and 2. And I think they got Tom Brady, I think, in week 5. And so I think by then they might have shaken some rust off. And week 5, I think they might have a little motivation. I know Jalen Johnson's already talking about how he wants to intercept Tom Brady. So I think there's always a little extra when you're playing against somebody like that. And there's going to be, divisional games early on. And I think that they're going to be wanting to, make up for 2019. And so I think while they're going to be sloppy, I think everybody else is too, for the most part. And I don't really know that any team, this is new for all 32 teams. And so I don't really know that any team is going to come in and just be aces the first 4 weeks. Maybe the Chiefs, they have Mahomes, they might be fine. But I think everybody's going to, for at least the first couple weeks anyway, be feeling the pain of no preseason and not being able to just shake off that rust and get back into the rhythm of things and get back into the daily grind of it all.
But what does that mean then for the quarterback controversy? Because now are you gonna give Mitch a lot longer leash because he doesn't have any preseason, which means you're gonna let Foles sit on the bench, or is it still gonna be the same size leash, same length of leash that you give Mitch despite there's no preseason? I mean, what do you think this is going to happen? Because without the preseason, and Matt Nagy, him and Ryan Pace just spoke a few moments ago, and he said it's an open quarterback competition. So if it's open, how are you going to have guys who don't have any preseason? You don't have any preseason reps, and how are you going to judge them and when to pull one to put the other one in, and then vice versa? What if the second one is struggling? Are you going to switch and go back to the first one?
I've been, Chicago media is completely split on this, it seems. And I'm that way too. I found I wake up some days thinking, okay, Mitch, he might be the guy. And then the next day I'll wake up thinking Nick is the guy. And so I think, I don't think Nagy, I think what's going to happen is they're playing the Lions week 1. And we know Mitch's numbers are best against Detroit. He likes man defense. So what I think is going to happen is I think Mitch is going to win the starting job. I don't know how long. I think they would feel better about a situation where they have Nick Foles waiting for them on the bench as opposed to starting Foles. And if you get hurt or maybe wouldn't live up to expectations, then you have Mitch sitting there. And he's less of a sure thing on the bench. He's less of a stable backup quarterback in my mind. And so I'm thinking that might play a factor in this as well, combined with his history against the Lions, and then he has the Giants. I think they're going to give him one final chance to prove himself as the starting quarterback. And I think it's going to be a short leash, though. I don't think they're necessarily going to yank him if he loses the first game close. But if he throws 2 or 3 interceptions and looks horrible, I think Foles is coming in no matter when it is. And so I think they're going to still roll with Mitch just because, and there's a huge contingent of Bears fans that are behind Mitch. I mean, these people are adamant that he is the guy. And so I think there's just all this stuff and the atmosphere, the shortened preseason. Foles hasn't been able to work out with any of these guys yet. He's out working with high schoolers right now, which is fine. At least he's doing something, but it's not Anthony Miller. It's not Javon Wims. It's not who he needs to be seeing. And so I think at first Mitch has got the advantage here. And then they're just going to sort of maybe bring Nick in if Mitch can't live up to expectations or doesn't perform, which seems like the likelihood.
You know what? Here's the thing. I'm not a Mitch person, but I fully believe that because of the investment that they made in him, because of the poor decision making, that everybody who sat in that room and thought that he was the right pick, they need to try to find some way to redeem themselves. And the bottom line is that this is the season either Mitch can do it or he can't. So I don't think that you can just not start him. That would look awful. But I also believe that he deserves the opportunity when it's all said and done to start. It's his job to lose. So my thing is, if he wants it, he's going to show up. He's going to play at that level. He's not going to let Nick Foles, who he knows can definitely maintain and can get this team to move along and win games. Now you have to battle for your job. So it's his job to lose. You start him. And that's how I don't think there should be any kind of quarterback controversy. There's just a quarterback question. To be or not to be. That is a question with Mitch. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think you're right, 100%. I think it's his job to lose. And if he wants it, for me, I like Mitch the person. Mitch the player is out in left field. He's not someone that I feel is reliable and that I can count on. And yet I root for him a little bit because he's got a good attitude, because he's a leader. At the same time, I want the Bears to win another Super Bowl, and I want my quarterback to be able to read defenses. And so if he can't do that, which is the basic requirement at the position in year 4, then I wish him well somewhere else because he's not going to be here next year.
See, yes, that's it, Beth. You just hit the nail on the head. I'm with you on this. You know what I stopped saying about people who suck at their job? I really like them. Don't matter if I like you or not as a person. I need you to perform in the job that you were hired to do. And that's the thing is, Mitch is such a nice guy. I think people feel bad that we have to say, let that go.
Yeah.
And you know what? And then part of it is, I like Mitch. I want him to do well, but if he at this stage of the game, I'm not sure if he can, because in year 4, okay, you're going into year 3 of this offense. You have to be able to be able to determine what defense you're going against. That's rule number 1. What defense are they in? Because that allows you to change plays. That allows you to audible. That allows you to depending on your RPO, what you're going to do. And that inability to do that is paramount. I get it if the first season he had a problem because he had John Fox in that system. Then the second year he had Matt Nagy. But that second season, which was his third, but that second season of Matt Nagy's system, it should have started to click for him, and it hasn't. So I don't think he's going to be able to get it, because if at this point you don't have it, you don't have it. All the other the other quarterbacks who were drafted in that, the other 2 stud quarterbacks who were drafted that we passed on, they get it. Yeah. They're able to. I mean, hell, Deshaun Watson just talked about a whole series after one post game. He was like, "Yeah, in that 3rd and 7, they were in a cover 2, and I had to." I mean, he's going on and on in the press in the post game presser. That tells you he understands what the heck he's seeing. Our guy doesn't. So I would like Mitch to finally get it. I don't think he can, and now we're screwed. Now we need it. Hopefully Nick Foles can do something, can perform to the level to make this defense viable, and get us into the playoffs, and then we have to start looking for a quarterback after this season.
Yeah, I think one of the, obviously Pace's biggest blunder was moving up to draft Mitch and not drafting Mahomes or Watson. And I could watch Deshaun Watson's post-game pressers for hours. I wish the Bears had once had a quarterback that could analyze plays like that and break it down.
Yes.
Correct reporters and just in a way that wasn't passive aggressive or mean. It was just full of knowledge and respectful.
It's clinical. Yeah.
And it seems like I literally thought this to myself at about 2 or 3 in the morning last night. We're damned if we're true and we're damned if we're false. I think either way, next year we're going to be left looking for a quarterback. And I think one of the worst things Pace did, I kind of went off on a tangent there, but I think one of the worst things he has done as GM or not done is draft a quarterback every year. He acted like that.
You mean when he said he would?
Right. I mean, that was one of the first things he said when he came to town. And I remember when Lovie Smith came to town, one of the first things he said was, "We're going to beat the Packers." He went and did that. Ryan Pace was like, "We're going to draft a quarterback every year." He drafted one, and it was Mitch Trubisky over Patrick Mahomes. So he had better. I don't care who's available next year. There better be a quarterback draft.
There has to be. There
has to be.
And I want to make a statement, then I have a question for you, Beth. It's interesting because even if Mitch improves his football IQ, and he's able to, let's say, sit down and watch film and read defenses, for some reason, I still don't think that's going to translate into the game, because under duress, he looks like a deer in the headlights. And I don't think that's a part of his makeup that's going to change necessarily, is that ability to deal, when the line folds, can he manage to maintain and do what he needs to do? I don't know that he can think on the fly like that. And that's a concern. But speaking of thinking on the fly, do you feel that the offensive line this season is going to be able to give him the time and protection that he's going to need to be better at being able to read defenses, so to speak?
I do. I think they'll be better. I think they'll be more like the offensive line of 2018. And I don't know if you guys saw, Windy City Gridiron did a really great breakdown of the offensive line recently. And they pretty much found that the Bears players are average. They're not great. They're not horrible, but they can get the job done. And I think Juan Castillo is going to help. I think he's going to instill some fundamentals and maybe a drive that wasn't there, maybe a work ethic that was kind of missing last year. And I think that we're going to, for sure, I don't think there's a question in anybody's mind that we're going to see both Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles on the field during the regular season this year. And I think they're going to have the same offensive line. And I think that when Nick Foles starts hitting his checkdowns and starts kind of, reading defenses a little bit more and making the correct decision at the line of scrimmage instead of running backwards with the ball and holding on to it, I think we're going to see pretty quickly how bad the Bears' offensive line isn't.
So
I'll tell you what, Beth. Here's I guess you and I are going to be on different sides of the fence of this, because the one thing, I mean, if you look in baseball, the teams that are going to do well in this pandemic situation are teams that are already established, teams that have a lot of cohesion and chemistry. The Bears at that right guard spot don't. That was huge. So Charles Leno Jr. in the left tackle had one bad year and then one good year. I mean, one decent year and then one bad year last year. And then the guard in the center situation. So you started James Daniels at guard, now he's at center, now he's going back to guard, and then his dancing partner was Cody Whitehair. Now you had nobody for Kyle Long, and then you have Bobby Massey on the other side. In the run game, the two guards in the center are your run game. And when you don't have a guy like that, like Kyle Long that we lost or let go, there's a big hole in that. So, and then add to that, you're adding a new line coach. So there's different terminology, there's different blocking schemes, there's a different technique or philosophy with a new offensive line coach. And so for me, if we want that offensive line to be good, then Matt Nagy's going to have to run the ball, because the best way to help your quarterback is with a run game. And the best thing to do for linemen is to tell them, and I've said this multiple times, and I'll say it till the cows come home, tell your offensive lineman, running the ball 30 times today. I don't care how many plays we have. Okay, we can have 100. There's a guarantee that we are running the ball 30 times, because it's a mind shift. It's a switch that is flicked, and that of the offensive lineman. I get to mash people today. I'm not kick stepping and working on twists. I'm going to mash people. And if he can do that, which I don't know if he's going to do, because he loves to pass the ball, if he does that, that will shorten that learning curve for this offensive line, which will help Mitch or Nick Foles, whoever's back there. Because if you don't, and you want to continue throwing the ball, with no OTAs and no involuntary workouts, this offensive line doesn't have any cohesion while learning a new philosophy from a new offensive line coach. So I think this offensive line is going to be an issue.
But here's the thing. I don't know. I'm on the fence about this, because one of the
over. We're on the opposite side of the fence, and you're in the middle.
I'm right in the middle.
You're on the fence.
I'm on the fence. Me. But that's me on the fence. But here's the thing that I think is the intangible that we don't know. Nagy, when it's all said and done, as goes his mindset and his focus, as your focus goes, your energy follows. So with that being said, if he's not willing to make the adjustments to make Mitch successful, or he's going to be looking to Foles, because that's going to be part of the problem, is that you're right. Offensively, we've got some issues, but I don't even know, being that I feel Nagy is very into himself and does not want to give up control of the offense, I don't know how much of their philosophy is really going to change, because if you think about it, it was really his philosophy last year. They only fired people because they had to make it seem like it was somebody's fault. Did I do that? I mean, I'm serious. But we didn't feel those people were truly accountable, because the year before there was a level of success. So I don't know from a philosophy standpoint how much of this is not already Nagy's philosophy and then we're seeing a shift. We'll never really know unless all of a sudden, because wait a minute, let's just say they get out there and they play cohesively. Does that mean the new person was like a guru? Or was it nothing really changed from last year in regards to philosophy, except now we do have some position shifts? But see, Kyle Long has been MIA for a while. So he hasn't been in that lineup for a long time. So I don't look at him as being, because he's not there, it's a detriment, because he's been absent for a long time because of injury prior to coming in just saying, we're done, it's finished, let's just move forward. So it'll be interesting. One, how long is the leash does Mitch have before Nagy pulls him? Because let's be honest, he already shown he struggles with committing to the run. He wants to pass the ball. And we do know that Foles can read defenses and he can pass the ball. So how long am I going to sit with the guy who can't do it because everything isn't working in his favor? You have to work to your strengths. And I don't think that Nagy's going to be that patient with Mitch when he went out. They intentionally went and got Foles for a reason. I don't know. So how long from you two do you think Mitch has, if he's not, let's say he's average, lukewarm, not wowing, how long do you think he gets before they pull the plug on him?
I'd say a couple games. I'd say 2 games max. I don't think it's going to be long. They're not going to waste the season on Mitch. They're not going to give him much time. And like I said earlier, I think if he comes out and just stinks it up and throws 2 or 3 picks against the Lions, he's gone. His mental state's got to be just chaos, frazzled ridiculousness. I can't imagine And I think that's going to be huge, like how well he handles all of the pressure. And if he can just set it aside, put it on the shelf, forget about everything, not think and play ball, it's the only chance he's got. Because otherwise, if he goes, I think 2 games max. I don't think they're going to give him the first 4 weeks of the season, like 25% of the year. Here you go, Mitch, try to get it right. But like you said, Maya, earlier, I think they got to roll him out there and give him a chance. He's the one more chance. This is it. This is his last chance. But it's, it's going to be do or die time.
Baby, give you one more chance, like Biggie.
Shawn, what do you think? I mean, how long? Nagy's impatient in his own way. I don't care.
No, he's got a game. He's got a game. If he stinks up the joint, that's why they brought a guy in that Nagy's comfortable with. If you screw it up, I think I wouldn't be surprised if he screws it up in the first game. That change is made right then and there, because Nagy's now you're going to start to see the self-preservation for Nagy. Like my ass is on the line. Okay, I got a guy here who understands this offense, who I don't have to worry about whether or not he can read defenses. He has a Super Bowl ring that tells me he can read defenses and be successful. So I think the leash is short. And I'll tell you what, here's the issue, and Ryan Pace did a good job by hedging his bets, because if Mitch is horrible and we start talking, oh my God, he got pulled, but then Nick Foles comes in and starts playing really well, and we're not really talking about Mitch. We're talking about how successful the Bears are and how awesome that defense is, because Nick Foles is driving them scoring, keeping the defense off the field, giving us a lead, and this defense gets to play with a lead, which they haven't had as much as we'd like. So he hedged his bets pretty well, and I think it's going to be – there'll be talk about it, but there won't be as much talk about, the bust that he was, because the Bears will be winning, and that's basically what they want.
I say 2 to 3 games. I am on the fence. Just because, let's say the first game is kind of like everybody's coming back, COVID, stuff on your mind, making adjustments. The second game is like settle in. You know what I'm saying? And I think by game 3, if he looks like he's really struggling, that's why I don't think they'll give him more than that. Just because I think game 1 is everybody has to settle in. You know what I mean? Game 2 is when they're like, okay, let's go. So I don't know. I say 2 to 3 games. And if he looks like he's really struggling, especially with the schedule that they have, that's when I think they say, this is not a long season like baseball. We don't have this many games to monkey around with. We're going to have to sit you, buddy.
I'm wondering, what do you guys think of Matt Nagy in terms of, do you think he knows that if he wants to keep his job, he needs to learn how to run the ball effectively as an offensive coordinator? Because he says after a lot of games and or during media press conference, I'm not an idiot. I'm a smart guy. And yet he, used David Montgomery a handful of times. I mean, I could count the amount of times on 2 hands he used him in the first game against Green Bay. And so do you guys think that he knows this, or do you think that he's just going to, like Shawn kind of alluded to, I've got a game plan. I've got my style of offense. If Mitch can't do what I need him to do, I'm going to bring Nick in and he's going to run my offense, but I am not going to run the ball any more than I have to or want to. What do you think is going on in his head with that?
I think that's, in my mind, I think that's what's going on with his head. Like, I'm not going to sit here and keep making concessions to my playbook because I have a person who can't execute it when I have a person who can.
Yeah.
You look at offensive coordinators, especially guys who are called geniuses, and I'm not saying that he was, but when you look at offensive coordinators, they believe in their system, they believe in their philosophy. He comes from, and I can guarantee he believes that Andy Reid is a genius. Okay, and he finally broke through where you can call him a genius because he won the Super Bowl. Okay, before that, he was just a guy who couldn't get it done, and so he believes in his system. Remember, we had Mike Martz, and Mike Martz was adamant about his system. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so offensive coordinators are very, very self-centered and narcissistic about their system. And so if he's not going to change it, he's got a guy finally, like I said before, who can run the system. It's not going to change. So we're going to waste David Montgomery. We're going to waste an offensive line. And again, as I said, the best thing for a quarterback and the best thing for an offensive line when you're learning a new scheme is run block. Mm-hmm. Run, because now you gain confidence. Now you're wearing the opponents down. You're winning by attrition. And if you don't do that, which I don't believe Matt Nagy will do, there's going to be a lot of problems, and there's going to be a lot of problems for the Bears.
Oh boy!
Well, yep, you're right.
It was great having you. This is Beth Mishler-Elmore. She covers the Bears for Heavy.com, and you can find her on Twitter at Beth Mishler-Elmo. Okay.
Elmore. Stop calling her Elmo.
No, that's her Twitter handle.
I'm just kidding.
Twitter handle. And you're like our guy Eric Lambert from Sports Mockery. You put out like 3 articles a day. Jeez.
Yeah.
Fire.
Working.
Well, when you cover the Bears, guess what? They give you lots of material to work with.
Lots of news, lots of drama. Always something going on with the Bears.
Yeah, that's true. Beth, great stuff. We appreciate it. We'll be in touch soon.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys. Have a good one.
All right, now. Guys, that was Beth Mishler-Elmore. Man, there's just so many question marks, Maya. So many question marks.